Hi, everyone. Welcome. Let's see. Hey, Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Age of Brilliance, part number 10. So today is going to be very special. Muni's opening the portal of Legend and Legacy, part 2. And this is not just about memory, it's about immortality. The choices that you make now echo far beyond your timeline. Wow. A legend is not about fame. It's about essence of who you become, etched into the fabric of time. A legacy is not what you leave behind, it is what continues to grow because you lived, you led, and you loved with brilliance. So this is going to be a very sacred transmission, and it's going to unlock the 12 signs that anchor your legend. And we're going to invoke them to activate your legacy, and also what planetary energies are guiding this specific portal, and how your brilliance becomes immortal in the field. The impact that you ignite now and for generations to come. Wow. That's a big one.
Oh, thank you,
Yeah.
Dale.
You're so welcome.
So last time we did 5 of these at a level of depth. And today I'm going to start from the sixth point, sixth sign. So let's begin. And if there are any questions, any observations, any shares, put them in the chat. And Dea, you can also just raise your hand and I'll bring you in. Okay. So just to reiterate, first of all, this portal is open for everyone, but it is not necessarily for everyone. Okay, it is for leaders of today who really wish to take on, becoming legendary in this lifetime, become legends of our age. So then it's important to understand what is the difference between a legend and a legacy. So to live as a legend, it's one thing to become a legend after you're gone, but to live as a legend, because that is the opportunity and the opening, the possibility of the age of brilliance. To live as a legend is to embody your brilliance so fully, so fiercely that it becomes a guiding star for others. And to leave a legacy is to plant seeds of flourishing that keep bearing fruit long after you're gone. So the portal is open, even in me bringing this transmission forth, it is an indication that the portal is open. And what I'm talking about are the 12 signs that enable you to anchor your legend and empower your legacy. So last time we covered about one of the signs is soul staked vision. And here you've heard me say this, I just never edit whatever comes through. So we're going to be talking about, how do you invoke it, invoke this particular sign, what does it activate, what does it make possible, and how you can align your life to this. Okay, so we covered soul staked vision, we covered uncompromising integrity, we covered courageous vulnerability, we covered resonant voice, and now I want to do a link up with the fifth one, which is sacred consistency. There is consistency and there is sacred consistency in that you make it a daily practice such that it becomes like your own personal ritual. And you invoke this sign of legend and legacy through your daily practice, whatever that may be. And what that invokes and what it activates is devotion. Devotion is moving towards accepting and knowingness of your divinity. So it's being in motion, honoring your divinity. That is what devotion is. So that sacred consistency, when you invoke it through a daily practice, which has got this particular intention, then it activates devotion. And what that does is it makes reliability not just as something that people admire, but actually your reliability becomes your superpower. So, not every daily practice is in the sacred consistency realm as such, in terms of the science of legend and legacy. But there will be some that would be. And you doing this reliably. So, for me, doing my breath practice is absolutely a sacred consistency. And it does put me in a state of deep meditation. So I know it has activated devotion. It makes reliability my superpower. And what happens, the consequence of that is that your presence actually becomes that legacy in motion. So what would be useful is there are if you were to ask people, I do this body of work called the source mastery, and I ask people to what are the words that people use when they describe you, describe your leadership. And there's some amazing words are shared often. Those words are coming from people observing your reliability as your superpower. And what I say when I do the work on source mastery is once you've uncovered it, then the only game in town is to be that. Really be present to you as the master. And what happens there is that your presence becomes your legacy in motion. So look at particular moments in time throughout the life that you have led up to this point in time where you have shown up like this. So let's look at the sixth sign. The sixth sign is the title that I'm using is Flourishing Focus. So here what you do is you invoke it by aligning every action you take with whatever it is that you would call as your true game. So, what is my mission here? I mean, I must stand for expecting and accepting miracles being the norm for humans and humanity. And what is the mission that I'm on? The mission I'm on is to create a flourishing world. And how do I do this? I teach people to experience aliveness and live the life they love. And when I'm doing this, then I know that I'm really a player in my true game. So as a result, I am constantly invoking my legend and anchoring my legacy because my actions are aligned with this game. And like I said, you may or may not have your mission and purpose spelled out in this very clear way, like I have, and some of you already have it. So just become consciously aware and consciously invoke your actions such that you are able to, as a matter of your conscious choice, align those actions with your true game. So, I mean, this stuff happens, and some of it is quite disturbing. Now, I can choose to get, overwhelmed by that disturbance of stuff that occurs. And I consciously align my action with my true game of experiencing aliveness. So I don't ignore the emotions arising out of stuff that is disturbing. I acknowledge it fully. unconditionally accept it, and I still move forward, experiencing aliveness and living the life I love, and I share the same with others. Now, when you do this by aligning your actions consciously with your true game, what you're doing is you are activating quantum results. Not just results, quantum field. We've done at least two sessions on quantum field by itself. The quantum field is where the space bending happens, where the time collapses happen, and your results are accomplished simply because you intended for it to be so. So when quantum results are activated, what is a very important feature of quantum results being activated? All distractions disappear. They just dissolve. If you're surrounded by distractions and being tempted to this, that, and the other, your quantum field is not activated. So all you have to do is to get back to flourishing focus and look at what actions am I engaged in right now? And what is missing and essential that I am to put in place so that I can actually align them to my true game. And what effect does it have when you engage with it in this way? You become the lighthouse that provides direction to others. You become the lighthouse of direction. So when disturbing stuff occurs in the world, often my son would say, just want to check in on how mom is reacting to this. Then I know whether to take it seriously or not. And sometimes I'm like, right up there in my responses, in which case the next person he goes to is his wife, because she's much more grounded in reality that he is living and breathing. So you decide what is your intention, what are you going to be a legend of, and what is the legacy that will be anchored as a result of that. You decide what that would be. You don't have to make it something that is, tough. Don't have to beat yourself up if you haven't been able to do it one day or to the next. But make a choice, be intentional, get clear about it, and declare it, even if it is aliveness, which is certainly the purpose of having life. And you can direct that aliveness at different things. And then suddenly you will become the go-to person, The seventh sign. The seventh sign is empowered ancestry. How do you invoke this? You invoke this by healing backwards and blessing forwards. Healing backwards. You literally take lineage by lineage and simply be in the presence of that lineage, giving permission to your being to experience a deep state of healing. And you also look at what aspects of my lineage that are anchored on the planet that require healing. So when I did this, I've done a lot of destiny retrieval and therefore a lot of ancestral stuff. What I felt was I didn't really have any ancestral control issues. I thought that had actually been dealt with. But when I actually did this in the form of, okay, I'm going to be healing backwards, and as that healing occurs, there'll be a blessing that will be emanating forwards. So when I did that, when I worked with my ancestral, um, controls, if you like, what I found was what needed healing was the control of the feminine by the masculine. They were not unkind to their feminine, but they definitely felt that the feminine had a role in the house, not necessarily as a national or international leader. And it's not that my older generations, my mother's generation, it's not that they haven't attempted as females to go, internationally for education and get into, significant roles in leadership. It just was never encouraged, never. And that was to do with ancestral controls. And it required healing because the female lineage had become so accustomed to compromising and putting themselves last. And there were various illnesses, like literally your DNA and your RNA starts to adapt. And there were certain illnesses that just went on from generation to generation, and it did require healing backwards. And you will find your way of healing. Your way of healing could be grounding whatever has occurred by walking on the grass, sleeping on a earth mat. It could be by actually performing a ceremony, fire ceremony, and letting go of all that has, given rise to situations that call for healing. Or it could actually be the way the healing will occur backwards. It's going to be through forgiveness, forgiving the other person, but also forgiving you for all the judgments and evaluations that you have anchored. Only once you have gone through that healing backwards are you ready to share the blessing forwards. And at this point, what I did for myself was I looked at who do I have in my future generations? And what can I, standing in my divinity, bless them with? So what has happened is I've now empowered ancestry backwards and forwards both. And what does it do? It activates divine support across timelines. And it is this, we have got 4 dogs in the house, so. And what does it do is it makes generational evolution possible, backwards and forwards. There are clans that hold on to conflict generation after generation. That you can't talk to some of the elders in those clans, but by simply doing your work on yourself, it's as if generational evolution starts to happen. It's so amazing, so magical. And what is the consequence of that? You become the turning point of your lineage. Everything from you going forward transforms and changes. So important right now at this time where people are going through, various forms of immigration or refugee status, attempting to or getting animated becoming an activist about what's going on outside is one way of reacting to what is happening. Another way is by making yourself become the turning point of your lineage, which is holographically expansive, by going through the healing backwards and identifying all that you can and have available to bless going forwards. The eighth sign is the label is radical responsibility. This is what I call as accountability. You invoke it through full ownership, no blame, no shame. You declare what can you be counted on personally, professionally. And you also declare what is it that you want to count on in terms of other people. And you give them the space to confirm whether you can count on them for that, or are they going to put forward a counter proposal. But once that is done, the discussion has occurred, both of you are accountable. And that is what activates true power. And it makes leadership unshakable. And your life becomes a masterclass in sovereignty, self actualizing, owning and exercising your power of choice. Let's look at the ninth sign. But before I go there, Dea, is there anything that you're seeing for yourself? Any questions, observations?
Um, uh,
Unmute, unmute.
I'm just saying, I was just observing and feeling into this, and how these are such powerful waves of expanding yourself and really stepping into your magnificence and brilliance, and yeah, so they're great. I'm feeling them. I'm really feeling them as
Yeah,
you say them. Um,
literally, it is literally like this wonderful divine shower of blessings going through these transmissions. I find them very tingly.
yes, for sure.
I don't know what else to say. The ninth sign is miracle magnetism, and you invoke it by living in your source mastery, keeping it up close and personal, and operating from that mastery. That's how you invoke it. And when you are operating from your source mastery, you're in the tune and the rhythm of your soul, which is infinite, unstoppable, indestructible, limitless, and eternal. And that starts to activate synchronicity, ease, and expansion. And because of this, it makes the impossible inevitable. And your field becomes a frequency of flourishing. So when you're operating in your source mastery, I mean, so much has happened in my life. So much has happened in my life. Even living the kind of life I live now just was not there. It didn't even exist. I had no comprehension that could be anything like this. In my corporate days, we traveled the world. Yes, we lived in hotels. Even if friends were there, we would still live in a hotel and visit them. And it is a completely different experience to reconnect, certainly after 5 years with people, and they're so excited about hosting me and even the immersion that I'm doing in their homes. And like literally, as synchronicity would have it, everything that I required for the immersion, we just had to go to one shop, we got it all. Then we needed another type of stuff, we go to we choose, Catherine is the one who's chooses exactly the right location, and we get everything that we require. Synchronicity, ease, expansion is activated naturally when you start living in source. And I really like this phrase, it makes the impossible inevitable. The job is done. The 10th sign is quantum compassion. You invoke this quantum compassion by meeting every moment with comprehension and understanding. And in that moment, there may be several people. And you will allow yourself to step into the invocation with understanding, moment by moment. And that activates what is often termed in the spiritual circles as unity consciousness. And it is this unity consciousness that makes wholeness tangible, that feeling of whole and complete. And your presence in any situation, in any environment becomes medicine. And that's the anchoring of legacy that starts to occur. I mean, I see the quantum compassion like I see it like a movie screen, you know, invoking it by meeting every moment with understanding. Not necessarily even empathy, just simple understanding. So look at where in your life you might have engaged with this quantum compassion. Because your intention is to focus on wholeness, making wholeness intangible, feeling that whole and completeness, where there is no lack, there is only aliveness. And that's where you are not afraid to be present and present fully. And you're not spinning around. You're able to stand in the center of the flourishing triad when you are in this quantum compassion. And this is how your presence becomes medicine for yourself and for your loved ones. The 11th sign is illuminated legacy blueprint. You invoke the sign by visioning from the future. So, if anything was possible, there were no barriers, what would have occurred in 12 months' time? How would I be looking if all of that occurred? What sort of words would I be using, and what kind of experiences will I be sharing? And if I look at people around me, who's there? And, what are they experiencing? What do they look like? What do they sound like? What do they feel like? This is a very high form of complete convergence. The illuminated legacy blueprint. From that point on, you become this illuminated legacy waiting to happen. And finally, but not the least, we come to the last sign, the 12th sign, which is source seated brilliance. You invoke it by being your true self. Practically, you can use ways in which you can connect to your brilliance and hang in there. And what happens here is that when you are invoking it by literally resting in your true self, when you are not resting in your true self, you're leaving your nervous system very vulnerable to becoming inflamed. And aches, pains, and all of that are nerve issues mostly. So it's important to invoke this one and rest in your true self. And what gets activated as a result is this divine orchestration of synchronicities that keep propelling you forward with ease, with grace. Literally exceeding your own expectations of yourself, of your life. And what does it do? It makes effort graceful. That's really what occurs. You're presencing Lady Grace and Lady Luck, and you are in a space of gratitude. And what impact does that have? You start to live as the light. And you leave behind, in the wake of you, people are illuminated as well. So you're leaving light behind as well as being illuminated by the light. There are a few planetary energies actually that are supporting us in this particular quest of legend and legacy. So we are supported by the expansive energies of Jupiter in Gemini. And what does Jupiter in Gemini do? It amplifies communication, wisdom, and legacy intelligence. We are also supported by the stabilizing presence of Saturn in Pisces, calling forth the structure of your soul's most poetic and profound contribution into our beautiful planet. These cosmic forces are your allies. And they are your allies. And in being your allies, they're rising up to your full brilliance, these cosmic forces, and anchoring a legacy that outlives you. So, just repeating this last paragraph exactly as I've written it, these cosmic forces are your allies in rising into your full brilliance and anchoring a legacy that continues to live long after you're gone. So, the legacy is anchored. So, these are the 12 signs. The portal is not just a lesson. This portal, particularly, is a summon. It's a summon to stop dimming your light. Brilliance is inevitable. It is a summon to start declaring. It is a summon to step forward, collaboratively co create and shape the future, not with fear, but with fierce flourishing. So you come here with the gift of life. You have an opportunity with the age of brilliance to leave as a legend. Let your life be a portal. Let your legacy be a revolution. And that's the opportunity that we all have available to us with this portal of legend and legacy. It's all about enabling us to live a flourishing life, filled with aliveness and deep sense of gratitude every step of the way. It's time to focus on flourishing, so let us flourish together and timelessly. With that having been said, I know it's a short session today. I have a salon coming up, so I'm going to complete at this point. And next week, we start the next topic altogether. And let's see what emerges for me to cover that as a topic. So over to you, Dea, to conclude and complete our session.
Oh my gosh, that was so powerful. Minu is here in California. She's in Northern California, getting ready to do her salon. So yeah, today was I mean, I missed last week, but I embraced everything today about flourishing focus, empowered ancestry, radical responsibility and accountability, miracles and quantum compassion, illuminated a legacy blueprint. And source-seated brilliance, fully embodied, and us all stepping into our magnificence and brilliance. So yes, thank you, Minu. It was really powerful.
You're so welcome. You're so
Yeah.
welcome. And I look forward to seeing you. Connie, you're here, and Lee, you're here as well. And
Oh,
um, yeah, they're all coming in. Looking forward to seeing you.
wow.
Thank you so much. Namaste. Have a great rest of the week.
Have a wonderful salon, Minu.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.